The story begins with Kim Young wondering if she has succeeded after the master of the final floor has vanquished as the clear condition of the epic quest has been fulfilled. She wonders, really, it's truly the end now. However, the monster in the game cannot believe he lost to a human and thinks this cannot be happening. He whines about his grand plan not being concluded yet. She asks him, is he really talking about a grand plan? Well, if world domination is such a big deal, he cannot really die with grace. She is quick to add it's really uncreative. The system tells him the king of waves and healing expresses regret that he is now returning to the original world, and the malicious blood cult leader sniffles with tears. She asks him why is he crying. It's just the end of the story. They have been through enough together, haven't they? And it seems like it's time to say goodbye. The system asks her how she could say such a thing. She simply replies, oh, they're getting old now, and requests them to let her just go home. She lets them know her dog is waiting for her. Her Maltese Cerberus must be eagerly waiting for her alone. The system points out that when the possession ends, the dog won't remember the time he has been waiting. She tells him that's right, she's the one waiting and she's dying to see her dog at home. That's when the monster lets her know he will seek revenge. She admits he is quite persistent, but tells him to seek revenge from the uncreative author, not her. He warns her since she has destroyed his wish, he will also destroy her strongest wish. She attacks him with her sword and tells him if he's going to die, then he should die quickly instead of cursing around. She reminds him how many people he has killed and talks about revenge as if it's some wish, others don't have that luxury, he should die. He gives her an evil smile and tells her in the next life, his revenge will be fulfilled. She will forever remain there. She thinks he's already talking about next life, but she is done. As long as she clears the quest, she is out. He can curse all he wants, but she still won. The other users praise her for her wisdom, and the Lord of Temptation tempts her to dream of puppies 100 times more. However, the malicious blood cult leader subtly suggests that he should become a dog. She calls him a grandfather and asks him how old is he. He's offended and says that he's not a grandfather, but figure of reverse age transformation. She says, what can she do anyway? Both she and the old man are over 100 years old anyway. The malicious blood cult leader urges her to quickly claim her clear rewards and turns away. She agrees that there's no delay and asks the system to go to the quest window and demand them to quickly give her rewards. However, the system provides her with emergency notice. There has been an error in the system, and they are urgently updating it. They deeply appreciate her patience. She wonders, what's this? This is a new notification, isn't it? The system further informs her that currently she cannot access the status window. She goes berserk and screams at them, then what about the rewards? Will the rewards be given properly? The system sends another notification that the system is currently undergoing an update. She should wait a moment. She shouts at them and demands to know what nonsense this is. She wants her rewards right now and to go back. They instead provide her with a new notification. That the author of S-Rank Hunter Gets Stronger with Regression has released their new work. They ask her how about enjoying the author's next work called What If the Hunter Becomes the Villainous Duchess Lover right now? She's sweating as she asks why such a cheap title for the next work. The system tells her quest conditions have been met and congratulates her on clearing the epic quest successfully. However, due to a system error, the content of the rewards will be changed. Previous clear reward was possession end, and then return to the original world. But the changed clear reward is repossession end, and the repossession as another novel protagonist. She's so clueless that she cannot find the right words to ask. The system alert responds by apologizing, and that it seems due to the current system error. It may be difficult to provide the promised reward to return back to her world instead. It will give her an even better reward. It will repossess her as the protagonist of her next work as Rank Hunter becomes the villainous Duchess. The system is quick to add that they believe she will be satisfied, as this novel is also entertaining. She literally loses it upon hearing it and screams at them to call the management team or call the author. The ruler of the final floor, the regressor who annihilated the owner of the tower, she was actually in a state of possession. In the fantasy novel, the Rank Hunter gets stronger every regression. The day she took the civil service exam in South Korea, she studied for 4 years and 7 months and finally passed, celebrating with a meal out. She got into a car accident and died, and then she got possessed in the novel she had been reading during her 4 years and 7 months of her exam preparation. At first it was fun to become an S-rank hunter and turn into Munchkin. Also, she made a contract after snatching away the top 3 rankings of the thrones from their original work. Despite having such overpowering stats, Young never managed to defeat the boss even once, as the antagonist and final boss of the novel she possessed was just too strong, with no weakness and incredibly diverse attack patterns. There was no strategy to defeat them, plus, since the novel was unfinished, the matter to clear the game was unknown. Nevertheless, Kim Young succeeded. She managed to devise a strategy to defeat the final boss after 58 regressions. She has entered the new novel with a new face and wonders, so what do they do now? Even though she was supposed to return to the original world and all. She is furious that instead of giving out the rewards for completing the quest while dying, they are making her possess another novel again. She calls for the quest window, and it appears it provides her with information that she is now incarnated as the infamous villainous Reincarnates, the daughter of the strongest martial artist of the Landish Empire. She has been falsely accused of murdering the Saint Reincarnates and hiding her body, and now she is imprisoned in an underground dungeon, and she has to find a way to escape from the prison at all costs. She thinks, luckily through the quest window she can at least roughly understand the situation. The system remains the same, only the world has changed, and judging by the title and the quest content of the novel, it seems like she is incarnated into a romance fantasy novel. She wonders what should she do. She hates romance. She reads the other information provided by the system and wonders if there is a balance patch going on. She has never encountered this before. Every time the system displayed an intricate level of perfection, it felt so meticulously crafted to the point where it seemed like everything was tailored just for her. She thinks the fact that the system, which used to be so meticulous, is now showing such sloppy behavior. She believes it probably means that this wasn't a planned incarnation. Perhaps it's indeed the work of that owner of the tower pulling some tricks. She thinks, so that curse in the end was powerful enough to cause errors in the system. But there is no point in just thinking while trapped, so she should start with the quest. She knows she needs to escape from this prison, then she can also escape from this incarnation. She decides to first experiment to see the extent of her abilities. The malicious Blood Lord suggests her to start by breaking everything, while the King of Waves and Healing advises caution and tries to restrain the malicious Blood Lord. She asks them what do they know about this world and demand them to explain it to her. The Lord of Temptation says that this world is connected to their homeland, the demon realm, where they were born. She wonders if it's just a typical fantasy world, isn't it? Anyway, that's just beside the point. She asks, could they check their stats? Has anyone's stats changed? The malicious Blood Lord says that they have fallen from being able to traverse continents to being able to split mountains. The tempting sovereign says that it's worse than the underworld, but better than the previous one. The King of Waves and Healings is watered that their stats have significantly decreased. She asks them how much worse the stats have gotten. The King of Waves and Healing team says they cannot use the Resurrection of Water skill here. She tells them that's okay, since she could hardly use it in her past life anyway, and then asks if everyone is okay then. They all nod in agreement. She believes so basically her abilities are just slightly worse than before, and that she just needs to worry about the standard of this world. With seemingly effortless strength, she dismantles the prison cell, shattering its hinges as if they were mere fragile obstacles. She wonders if perhaps there is no need to worry after all. The Landish Empire's greatest warrior, the iron-blooded Marquis Makiris, the Empire's only duke who has built up honor with his exceptional swordsmanship. For centuries, the Makiris family has consistently produced numerous foreign masters, but now faces the imminent threat of downfall. The only saint in the Empire and the fiancé of the Crown Prince Reincarnates, the noble daughter of the Makiris, disappeared on the outskirts of the Makiris Duchy. Even the most likely suspect is Reine Makiris, the disgraced noblewoman and the Empire's worst villainess. She is the daughter of the Makiris Duke. And Makiris, the Marquis of Makiris, orders his men to prepare for the battle. He adds she may be an unparalleled skilled fighter, but there's a palpable tension in the air. His brother Kirill Makiris, the second son of the Makiris Duke, has already drawn out his sword, and adds when the count reaches 3, they need to attack together. The count starts. They all get ready to attack, but just as they count 3, Reine appears from the basement all lively and energetic, noticing they are accompanied by so many people. Later they are settled in the living room and her brothers demand she spit it out. Who got her out of the prison? She casually replies she did, just because that prison was poorly guarded. He thinks to herself, seriously, how many times are they going to ask the same question? They need to progress the quest instead of wasting time here. Anne asks her so whose skill was that exceptional agility and demands to know the name of that brat who's helping her. She thinks to herself he's got quite the voice. He asks her if that's the guy who killed Karis. Did she hire him? He observes her dismissive demeanor and asks if she is even listening to him. Carol replies on her behalf and says looks like she's not listening, brother. She is, however, busy observing their affinity and believes even with the broken status screens, their affinity is rock bottom. The system tells her she has 2 older brothers and she needs to develop her relationship with those 2 in order to secure a better future. Ant affinity is 800 and Carol affinity is 600 clear reward. Partial restoration of status screens. The system tells her she has been accused of murdering St. Leon Curis and she needs to make someone believe in her innocence. Clear conditions are to create a believer. Glear and reward is prestige plus 30. She mumbles about how she is tasked with taking care of these brats' affinities and her crumbling reputation. Anne asks her what is she saying. She replies he doesn't need to know, but thanks for his concern, and then remembers about affinity. She needs to watch her manners if she needs to raise affinity. This causes him to be mad, who believes it seems like she has completely lost her mind, while Krill tries to distract him so the situation doesn't worsen, and she is busy thinking let's forget about these guys and focus on raising prestige. She tells him that's beside the point, but she's just saying because she doesn't really understand the current situation she is in. She asks them why they would think she killed that saint. Anne asks why does he think she killed the saint? Is she really saying that nonsense? He reminds her she was the one spreading rumors about killing the saint. He adds she even disappeared from their family estate and the whole world suspects she is the one behind it. He says even if they imprisoned her for centuries, it's uncertain if the family's honor will be preserved, yet she managed to escape prison again. He asks her how far does she intend to disgrace their family name. She simply replies all right, she got the information he mentioned and asks so where's the evidence? Is there a body? He says wasn't it dismembered? Is it still intact? Did she hide the body and evidence? That's why she's quite confident. She ignores his tantrum and simply asks so nothing's been found yet? Carol replies well, there's no solid evidence, but she is the only suspect. No one else came even close to being a suspect. Anne reminds them just her having a grudge against Karis is a challenging issue in itself. Anne questions if it wasn't her, then who could have killed someone so virtuous? Anne tells her it's not even too late now. If she confesses and reveals the location of the body, His Highness the Prince might forgive her, at least until the audience trial. He reminds her that father was going to the palace to preserve the family's honor to some extent, so if she has any last bit of conscience left, she should speak up. She wonders why are they bringing up the prince instead of the emperor here. Carol asks her what is with her reaction. He reminds her that the prince is personally overseeing this case. She says no, but why would the prince go to such lengths usually? But she's cut off by Ant, who questions is she still under the illusion that His Highness will favor her? He is quick to add it's been over 3 years since His Highness got engaged to Karis Lian, and she should get rid of the illusion that there will be an opportunity. He says enough with the family nonsense, and isn't she tired of this unrequited love? She realizes so that's what happened. Reen loved the prince too much, so she tried several times to kill his fans. She thinks it's too obvious to even think about, but something does not seem right. She remembers the quest log said she was accused of, so that could only mean one possibility, that Reen did not kill her. She believes the system may lack consciousness and shame, but it does not lie. Fiction doesn't lie to its readers, but it can certainly intentionally conceal the truth. She wonders so who could have done it then. She tells her brothers so she has got a rough idea of this situation and asks them to listen to her. She says well the saint could have left on her own. Ant rubs his face with his palm, while Carol looks at her as if she has lost her mind. Carol tells her to use her brain and reminds her Karis was scheduled to marry the prince in a month. Would someone like that suddenly disappear on their own? Reen thinks then the possibilities increase, as she might have run away because she did not want to get married. Anne asks her, does the saint seem like someone who would throw such a petty tantrum, and tells her not to equate herself with her. Reen says why such a narrow view where you can be useful? She warns him that with such a petty heart he cannot do much. She notices Carol seems to respond better than expected and wonders if she should exaggerate it a bit more. She adds but the saint must have struggled a lot. Ant inquires what does she mean. She reminds him he said himself that the saint is very kind, so she probably ran away because she did not like the prince but was too weak to reject him face to face. She gives them an evil grin and says so what about investigating the prince for now? Carol starts laughing and the system informs her that Carol's favorability has increased by 10. Reen says to Ant not to just doubt her, even if others don't know her. He is her brother, so how about trusting her for once? He says is she trying to emphasize their blood relationship now? She corrects him. It's not an emphasis. It's basic, isn't it? Just once trusting and embracing each other as a family. Anne thanks for a moment, but then tells her if she had shown a gesture of trust even once, he would have believed her. But their family has given her chances repeatedly with the belief that she will come to her senses someday, and the result is this. She says, well, since there's a record, she guesses it cannot be helped. However, she extends an offer to them to just give her 1 month. If they give her just 1 month, she will prove her innocence. Both the brothers are taken aback by her demand, but Anne composes himself and asks her if she even knows what she will do. Rein tells him to stop it and just trust her for once. She smiles at him and asks if he's getting nervous because he knows she might be right. He clenches his fist and says fine, if she can prove her innocence he will do anything, even stake his name. She tells Kirill he is the witness. He eagerly agrees. The system then asks her if she would like to check the quest. She does, as she has been waiting. The quest shows that she made a deal with Ant to prove her innocence within 1 month and prove that she did not kill the saint, and the clear condition is to prove innocence. Clear reward is she can make one wish to Ant. She notices Kirill's favorability went up and thinks, oh, Kirill's favorability goes up too. But the problem lies for her. Why isn't Ant's favorability going up? She thinks even if his own brother's innocence is proven, his favorability doesn't increase, and what hidden settings does he have anyway? Ant abruptly turns and finds his sister with her hand extended, who asks him to take care of it for a month. He asks her what does she mean by take care? It might be wise to prepare for failure even now. He shakes her hand. She tells him, "Ugh, thanks for worrying about it." Kirill says it seems like something has changed. Ant looks at his hand and thinks he did not plan to shake hands, but he couldn't avoid her hand. He thinks as a top-tier sword expert, he couldn't avoid the hand of a civilian who knows nothing about swordsmanship. Even when he held her hand, he couldn't feel anything. No skills, no kindness. But a moment ago, he almost drew his sword without realizing and just reached out his hand. He wonders why. What on earth is this? Later, Rein thinks, what should she do now? She lacks too much information, so even if she tries to move, she doesn't know anything. She decides to start by obtaining some information sources and thinks there must be someone at this large mansion who is somewhat friendly towards her, right? However, the maids treat her very badly and misbehave with her and tell her to stop tarnishing the Duke's name any further. She wonders, how did Rein even survive here, as they are treating someone like this with such contempt. On top of that, her favorability drops even if she meets anyone. She decides to give up on getting information from this mansion, but one thing needs to be said. She holds the maid's hand and asks her to at least tell her her way to the room. The mansion is just too big for human decency. When she steps in her room, she is surprised as the room is actually nice compared to the treatment hut. She says let's start by changing out of these uncomfortable clothes. Upon exploring her closet, she discovers an array of dresses, accompanied by matching jewelry and shoes. She is mad as these dresses look to her as fancy-looking candy wrappers. She figured that Duke would be wealthy since he is a duke, but to spend this much on this, she thinks it is sweet for a noble woman like this. She wonders if with this kind of wealth, he could easily buy information sources with money, right? Actually, it's easy for her to create admirers. The malicious blood priest has the grandpa's sorcery, and the Lord of Temptation has the grandpa's skill, but now, during the adjustment of status, the combat transport skill was triggered in the middle of a battle in the war, resulting in the death of the direct subordinate. Now skill usage must be suspended. She thinks now it's possible to kill everyone like back then, and it's a situation where it might be possible to regress like back then. She knows they need to move cautiously and decides first to confirm if the saint is really dead, as there are no bodies, no evidence, no witness. She thinks either the saint ran away or was murdered, but nobody knows for sure. If the saint is alive, she needs to get her statement. If she's dead, she needs to catch the culprit and solve the quest. If she proceeds step by step like this, she will eventually be able to leave this world. She asks the King of Waves and Healing if they can find the saint. The King of Wave and Healing replies if he has her belongings, he can track her. The malicious blood priest asks if it's okay to just blame anyone for the crime. The Lord of Temptation boasts about his expertise in his field. Rein warns him he is saying some dangerous things. It seems like there's someone here who also deals with the sacred, so the old tempter might get caught. The Lord of Temptation cannot handle the shocking matching. She tells them she thinks she should leave here. It seems like she won't be able to get any information sources, even if she spends money here. The King of Waves and Healing expresses concern about whether it's safe. She arrogantly says, oh, who's she? As an S-rank hunter and the regressionist who cleared the top tower. The malicious blood priest scoffs at the idea that everyone who meets her is in danger. The Lord of Temptation laughs uproariously at the joke from the malicious blood priest. The cunning Lord of Blood suggests going to the missing scene. She tells him it's a good idea, but she doesn't know where the missing scene is. The astute Lord of Blood makes a sharp observation. She says it's true, but she cannot give up. Even shit can be used for evil in this world. She goes to her brother Ant to get the report of the incident. She tells him if he doesn't want to remain as a family suspected of murdering the saint, so he should cooperate quietly. This causes him to be furious, who asks if she is threatening him. He then sighs and says he can give her the report. However, taking a guard with her is a condition. She tells him she doesn't need that. If it's his guys, they will just be a burden. He asks her if she doesn't understand the meaning of the condition. She points out at his closest associate and says that person will do since they will be watching her anyway and reporting back. Wouldn't it put his mind more at ease to send a closest associate? She also demands him to lend a carriage too. She arrives at the place where the saint was last seen. It's outside the Duchy of Machiris. According to the report, 10 days ago the saint disappeared while providing healing services in this slum. It is still unclear whether she was kidnapped or disappeared. Melson Priest approaches her and asks what is going on here. She observes the priest and thinks it looks like he's doing something extravagant right, and also notices the book he's carrying and wonders what that luminous book is. She lets him know she is here to reveal the true culprit and asks them to cooperate. The priest's men question that did not they say the Duke's daughter was the culprit? And now they're claiming there's another culprit. She tells them it's not a claim, it's a fact because she did not kill the saint. She is quick to remind them that they also have no evidence or witnesses that she is the culprit. Since they don't have the ability to find the saint, they probably haven't found her yet. She hopes they understand that she means to join forces for good. She has a plan that she's just going to suck up their information and investigate on her own. The priest men say what she says is also correct and looks like they're ready to work with her. But the priest notices and doesn't like it and questions how they can believe the young lady's claim of innocence. She smiles and thinks, look at this guy. Looking at him, it looks like he's not good with his bare mouth. She guesses her security is being questioned and lets them know she brought donations like this and has literally brought lots of jewels and treasures. The priest's greedy eyes sparkle with light upon seeing the jewels. He apologizes for not knowing her true feelings and asks if there's anything he can help her with. First of all, she asks him if he has any of Reincarnates' belongings. The longer he has something, the better. He smiles and says then there's nothing like this scripture. It belongs to the saint. He asks if there's anything else she needs. She thinks as expected, the more money spent, the faster it becomes. She tells him she wants to look around the tent where Lady Karis stayed. When she arrives at the tent, she notices it's neat, frugal at the level of advertising that she is a saint. The associate she brought along calls for her. He asks her about the donation. She says, why is there a problem? Because as she remembers thanks to it, she also got the scriptures. He says, no, that's not it. He thought she hated the church. He seems hesitant and says because something like that happened with the archbishop. She wonders what he is talking about again and asks for him to go on. He apologizes and says it must have been something she doesn't want to think about again. She tells him no, keep going. She has done many things that she cannot remember. He reminds her when the archbishop declared Lady Karis a saint. On that occasion, the young lady poured champagne into the archbishop's face. She sharply cuts him off and says enough and tells him to say no more. She thinks this body lived a very hard life. He adds that it wasn't because of the saint. The archbishop said she had committed a very indecent act. He says that's what happened. Still, people did not believe it, and what the archbishop did was in vain. He asks her if that was also a misunderstanding. Right? She tells him to think whatever he likes. Isn't everyone like that by now anyway? Think what they like and do what they like. She thinks to herself, no one listens to someone without a bad reputation. She then tells him she will investigate her, so he should go out and wait. The old memories resurfaces. In past life, her previous life, even in countless regressions, it was something she had experienced several times. Moreover, it will be something she will experience in the future. In this situation, facts are of no use. The truth is what they want to hear, because what they don't want to hear is a lie. She knows she cannot trust anything other than herself, and since she came in, the body is her. Is there anyone else in this world who can trust her as much as she does? She thinks no matter what suspicious or false accusations are thrown at her, she will still believe in Rein. Even if she was a really bad kid, what would she have done? In this world, everyone sees her as a bad person, so she should become a bad person. She makes a promise to Rein that she will listen to her. From now on, she will never doubt Rein. On the other hand, the priest informs Sidon and Zared, who asked if the daughter of the Duke came to visit. The priest tells him they say they are conducting a direct investigation to prove their innocence. The priest thinks he would have never thought that His Highness the Crown Prince would send Sidon, a person who earned the title of mercenary king at the age of 20. He is the head of the Shira Guild, the continent's best mercenary guild, one of the only 2 sword masters in the empire. There are endless titles that describe him, including the Light of the Ramdisha Empire. But he thinks it takes a person like this to be able to investigate a case like this. Sidon asks the priest if he believes that she has come here to prove her innocence. He replies he doesn't believe it completely, but he thinks there will be a lot of backlash from them if they don't give them a chance at all. Sidon believes he must have taken a bribe. Not surprising, however. What's surprising is the fact that Rein came all this way and investigated in person. He thinks it seems like she was quite impatient. He recalls the rumors he has heard about her cutting off Viscount Kelsey's hair, making the Saint's trip. Of course, there are definitely some unclear parts, but he knows it has nothing to do with him. He instructs the priest to refrain from giving her any information, in particular the fact that there are witnesses must be hidden. When the priest tries to say something, he cuts him off by saying this is what the Crown Prince ordered. He then says, "Let's go and meet the Duke's daughter now." The priest collapses without any sign. He didn't even feel any magic. He thinks this is the energy of a dream demon. He pushes off the dream demon and pulls out his sword quickly. He thinks to himself, he who is the sword master can barely withstand it, then it must surely be a power comparable to that of a high-ranking demon. He thinks who on earth could summon this level of demons, moreover in a place with so many priests. He can feel it and believes this person is surely stronger than the Crown Prince. In this uncertain and unstable world, the one and the only thing that supported Sidon, which allowed the war orphan to survive without ever seeming strange, was war. Due to this, he pursued and coveted only power like a devout believer, even though he hails as the mercenary king for building the continent's largest mercenary guild. Even when he amassed wealth and power through the consolidation of the upper class, he continued to feel a burning thirst. It is like looking up at the sun, shining down into a dry well. The only thing that can relieve the endless thirst, however, as that thirst grows longer, is overwhelming strength more overpowering than even the continent's mightiest crown prince. He steps out of his tent and notices the entire area fell into slumber. That is impossible with just one dream demon. The energy is strongest there and realizes that it's the saint's tent over there. Approaching the location, his eyes widen in shock, sensing the profound and intense energy that pervades the surroundings. He thinks it's strange, as if it already surpassed his limits. He has never experienced such an energy before. He realizes it's beyond human understanding and isn't as close to a natural disaster. He cannot even dare to compare it to the Crown Prince, as this is someone whom nobody would dare to harm. He cannot afford to miss such a golden opportunity. He needs to find who it is. He thinks what he has achieved so far has not been his goal. Only becoming stronger gives him satisfaction. More. He wants to feel more. He steps in the tent and screams for the person to show himself. Nevertheless, he begins to feel dizzy, and before long, he collapses onto the floor, succumbing to unconsciousness. Our female protagonist notices him and thinks, what about this kitten? Moments ago, system notification popped up. They apologize sincerely for any inconvenience caused to the possessed person. The synchronization of possession and system adjustment has been completed. She thinks no wonder it has sealed half of her abilities. This must be designed to be solved later as a quest. She wonders why it is so annoying. She sighs and thinks she should be satisfied with this much, and asks if they find the saint with this scripture sister water. She asks the tempting old man if he can summon a demon here. Would it be trouble in front of the priests? The Lord of Temptation gets angry and tells her not to ignore him. She smiles and says, "All right then, let's ask the priest for a short nap," and all the demons surround her. Back to the present, Sidon is unconscious. She has settled him in the bed and is sitting next to him, thinking he's really pretty. He reminds her of a cat she used to have next door, Blackie, some time ago. The Cane of Waves and Healing admires the appearance of Sidon with her. She thinks there's something about these eyes that particularly catches her heart. The leader of the vicious blood cult says she really genuinely appreciates beauty. Reem replies, well, that could be the reason. The Lord of Temptation playfully suggests that he noticed her admiration when summoning demons, hinting that she has a fondness for handsome men. She mutes the Lord of Temptation and thinks, what nonsense is he sinning? System alerts her that the Lord of Temptation has sent her a private message in exchange for 100 years reprieve from the afterlife. The Lord of Temptation demands to know how she can mute him just because he said she likes handsome men. She covers her ears and says it's so loud. Stop it. Please stop and think the system must be crazy. Why does it use private chat? She tells them to concentrate. Now they need to decide what to do with this guy. The Lord of Temptation complains that he doesn't like him since he fell asleep. She checks his stats and believes they are pretty strong. She then realizes no wonder the dreamer demon had a hard time. After all, strength is everything. Lord of Temptation says how about killing him right now? She says let's keep him alive for now as she quite likes him. She thinks because it's the first time someone whose affection toward Rein is not negative. She thinks well, he's not only pretty and cute, but also seems obedient, right? Looking at his favorability, it seems that he's not someone who only judges people by listening to others. The leader of Vicious Blood senses something ominous is going to happen. She thinks judging by his title, he must have a lot of information, and since he is a sword master, he doesn't have to worry about falling over and dying. She convinces herself these will be all in her favor so she could have him. She says good, she has decided he is hers from now on. The leader of Vicious Blood is confused and asks what that means. She replies she is going to make him her subordinate. He's like a perfect pet for her, more like a human companion, right? The leader of Vicious Blood strongly threatens to get angry if she doesn't kill the guy right away. She tells him to do whatever he wants and asks the Lord of Temptation if he came up with anything. The Lord of Temptation gives her the report of the dream demons. She checks it and says mostly there's nothing special, but realizes there is a witness. The Lord of Temptation delivers the witness information to her. She thinks look at this, there's a witness, and they hid it from her. They are going to swallow everything up and then clean their mouth, thinking that it was also the orders of the Crown Prince, and this guy makes her more furious. She excitedly ends up hitting him in the nose. She is shocked she hit him without even realizing it. The Lord of Temptation snorts and asks if he might die because of that. The leader of the Vicious Blood agrees and says he is speaking the truth for the first time in a while. The King of Waves and Healing rebukes the human companion, saying that the face is important, but this may be too much. The King of Waves and Healing reprimands and says it is excessive to prioritize appearance for human companions. The Lord of Temptation says it's okay, because they are more handsome. She tells the guys it is enough. The leader of the Vicious Blood cult shakes his head as if he's tired of this. She mutes all of them, but decides to unmute Sister Water since she needs her help with the treatment. She decides to fix her mistake, but she will scold him separately later. She whispers to him she will see him soon, and calls him her companion and leaves. In Sidon's dream, Rein refers to him as Blackie and tells him it's time to get punished for making his master angry. He's confused and asks what is she talking about. Her response to that is that she is his master from today, and if he does not wake up, she will punish him. He is still confused and repeats once again the question. What is she talking about? He asks her, who the hell is she? Slowly and gradually, he regains his consciousness with the help of Water Sister, but his nose hurts, and he wonders why does his nose hurt. He slowly recalls what happened earlier and thinks about his energy and wonders what happened to his energy. His eyes then land on Rein, who is sitting next to him, and asks him if he is up now. He addresses her as the daughter of Duke Makiris. She says he seems to know her and inquires if they have met before. He explains to her they have never met before and thinks it's a completely different atmosphere than he has heard, but he closes his eyes as if trying to remember something. When she's too much into his personal space, he kindly requests if she can please step back. She simply whispers he remembers. He asks her what? She says her spirit and places her hand on his. He notices when she put her hand on his. No more than that, and the feeling came rushing back. He cannot believe it. His eyes widen in shock when he realizes. It feels like she seems to know what conclusion his mind came to. Because she confirms yes, the person he came for is her. He asks her if she was the one who summoned a high-ranking demon. She says she thought his wisdom stat was high, but he's a bit stupid. He's still confused, so she changes the topic and asks if he followed the Crown Prince orders and refers to him as Blackie. Her blue eyes become darker and her gaze focused and calculated, and she questions him why did not he not announce that there was a witness. He seems reluctant to reply and chooses to act ignorant and says he has no idea what she is talking about. The next moment she is in his face and warns him that they shouldn't waste each other's time. She just met the witness in person and heard everything. She asks what is the last act of the saint and who was the one who told him to cover it up. But what annoys her the most is she grabs his jaw and lets him know that they hid it and pretended they did not know. She knows the saint was not kidnapped. She left on her own, which means there was absolutely no reason for her to be locked in a dungeon. It seems like he is flustered because of her close proximity, as he easily reveals that the crown prince assumed that Saint left because she threatened her. She leans into him and whispers he is more obedient than she thinks right. She doesn't think he's scared. She asks him if she doesn't look like Cerberus. The other lords all witness this in awe. She says, well, there is a record about her in the past, so it is a reasonable guess, but it's not true. He reminds her that the crown prince must have a different opinion about her. She guesses so too. The new bride disappeared just before her wedding, hiding the only witness in that situation either could be because he is the one who turned his back and can't trust anyone because his fiancée disappeared, or because he is the one whose reputation is linked to his fiancé. They believe it's one of the two. Saidin says that's quite different from the rumors he heard that she has been in love with the crown prince for a long time. Listening to her, he thinks it's rather close to hate him. She responds to him by claiming she doesn't like him anymore. No, she hates him. She believes no matter how much of a twist it may have been, why would she even like the guy who framed her? He remains quiet for some time, as if having an internal debate, but then confesses to her that he has one thing to tell her. He reveals the crown prince and the saint. The two are known to be lovers of the century, but the reality is different. Their engagement was nothing more than a contractual relationship. He further adds it was an engagement decided only because it was necessary. She claims she knew they were not in love with each other, but then she realizes he is giving her secrets and asks why is he telling her that all of a sudden. He gives her an innocent smile. She lets him know whatever it may be. If what he says is true, it makes sense. It was an engagement out of necessity. He must have wanted to eliminate any circumstances that would make him suspect that he was the one who kidnapped and murdered his fiancée. She also knows she was a thorn in his throat, so he got rid of it. She sighs in relief and says now that she has figured out everything she needed to know, she has to go. Just as she turns to leave, Saidin halts her in her tracks with a demanding question, seeking to know if she happens to be a demon. She replies, what is he talking about? Of course she's a human. He wants to know then how did she get to such a state with her human body? He narrows his eyes as he says that was the power that could not exist. That energy, no matter what he thinks, wasn't something that a person could have. It's not just strong, but a very dark power that seems to harbor an old grudge. He demands to know what did she have to go through to have this kind of power? She tells him all he has to do is die 58 times. He is taken aback by her answer and whispers what? She says, or the other alternative could be to try to save the world. He wonders if this is a joke. He reveals to her that he has heard that the lady has never held a sword before. He wants to know why is she hiding her power. With that much power the Empire, no, he corrects, it's a power that can unify the continent. She simply replies, what is she going to do with unification? She is not interested in that at all. He says he knew it. She only follows the path of the sword. She thinks what is he talking about? She just wants to go home. He grabs the blanket tightly and reveals that he has decided that he will serve his lady as she will be his teacher. They both remain in awkward silence for some moments. Her mind turns blank trying to contemplate if she heard right, while he looks more than eager to be a student. Saidin answered, who is he? He has achieved countless achievements to the point where he is called the light of the empire. He has received both a lot of hate and admiration because he is a commoner of unknown origin. The only thing he's interested in is the part of the sword, but the desire to overcome his own limitations is another. But even the crown prince, who was said to be the strongest in the empire, wasn't enough for him. He thought his highness was stronger than him, but that's all. The difference in skill doesn't overwhelm him. When he lost his goal, boredom overwhelmed him. He had no interest in anything, but one day he encountered a light that illuminated his forgotten longing, and it is called Reincarnates. The system reveals Saidin favorability has increased by 200. Once again, he requests her to please teach him a great lesson. The system tells Rein an unexpected option occurs. A mercenary king has asked her to accept him as a disciple. Would she accept that offer? She's busy contemplating what to do while he thinks is she going to serve him as a teacher. Rein thinks she has never made anything like that, let alone a disciple in her long life. No matter how many years it takes, the end is the same anyway. She reveals it's hard to live alone, but she hates taking responsibility for other people's lives. She wonders if this guy is worth enough to overturn that idea. He looks at her with puppy eyes as he's waiting for her answer. It seems like she must have come up with her decision, as the system says the selection is complete. She responds no. The system tells her that she has responded no, and Saidin's favorability has decreased by 100. He has a sad expression on his face as he questions, does she perhaps not like him? She tells him that she likes him. She ponders that it's just that she has her own ways. He asks her then why before she turns around and waves him goodbye. As she mentions that she does not like having someone take responsibility for this, he calls out to her asking for a minute. He stares at her as she becomes surprised, noting that he is shocking her. She is aware that his eyes are very similar to their cutest Cerberus in her world. The system tells her that since he is so handsome, it recommends her that she listens to him. She decides to hear him as she asks him to say it. He tells her that he is stuck at the moment, as even after rigorous training, and even when he met the Crown Prince, who's said to be the strongest person on the continent, he could feel nothing. But the moment he laid his eyes on her, he saw something awaken. She questions what is that something. He slightly blushes, unable to respond. She becomes shocked, pondering that cannot be the case. He tries to speak to her as she thinks that this baby who was just born earlier. She is shocked as she cannot believe he is having feelings for her who was born a long time ago, before he asks her to teach him, telling him that it's definitely a compliment, and this is the first time that he feels like he wanted to compete with someone like this. She seems annoyed at the constellation who told her to listen to him. She mentions that she is grateful for that and thanks him, but he nervously tells her that he is not asking her to accept him. He mentions that if she accepts him as her discipline, he will also help her both materially and spiritually. He will get her anything that she wants and listen to her every command. She wonders if he is the perfect person to use as a source of information. The system says yes as she mentions that she has decided that she will accept him as her discipline. She ponders that he should know that he survived only thanks to his face. Sight and favorability increases up to 200, as the system informs her that he has become her discipline and fame has increased by 100. As well as she receives a tip, which is that the more she makes relationship with others, the more her reputation will increase. She also receives the notification that she got her first discipline and questions how about she increases her relationship with her students. He calls her his master and thanks her. She seems awkward with it as she asks him to call her only lady as he used to, as she seems to be getting goosebumps. She questions that he said he would help her in any way materially and spiritually. She questions that she would like to ask him something. He tells her that he will answer anything. She finds it a bit burdensome that he agreed to it so well. She wonders if it is really what Lopan people are like. She tells him that the Crown Prince and the Saint, if he knows anything about those two, then he should please tell her. She also states that since he is in a position to receive orders from the Crown Prince, she asks if he thinks that it'll be difficult to answer her question. He responds no, as he does not have any intention to hide anything from his teacher, mentioning that he did not even offer his loyalty to the Crown Prince. She ponders that it is really burden, but it also seems comfortable. She tells him that she would like to ask him for a favor. He tells her that before he mentions it, he recommends that it's better to not be an enemy with the Crown Prince as he has a political position. She pats him, questioning if he is worried about her, mentioning that he is really the same as Cerberus. He responds that he is not someone to be taken lightly. She asks him to not worry in her and just answer her. She ponders that his explanation was as exactly like she guessed. The Saint Reincarnates has received the grace of Belua and is called the incarnation of the god. Thanks to her power and character, she is loved by all the Empire. The Crown Prince gained strong support from the people of the Empire through his engagement to a saint. Every effort was made to avoid damaging the engagement relationship. He does not mind seeing blood, even for just putting out as small a spark. However, in such a situation, the disappearance of a saint occurred. In addition, there was even an eyewitness testimony that the saint disappeared on her own. She tells him that the eyewitness story bothers her no matter how much she thinks about it. The last witness, the youngest priest. He was nursing a saint who was struggling, maybe even if it was a revelation. She continues that he said that he heard the saint sleeping talk, that she had to leave. She said that she had to go, mentioning that it was dangerous and she had to leave quickly. The witness wondered if she is sleep talking, and told her that His Royal Highness the Crown Prince will protect the saint so she could rest assured. She responded that she had to go, and if she did not go then, it would be dangerous. After that, the saint disappeared while the priest was asleep, and then they reported it to the Crown Prince. She questions what was on earth so dangerous that the saint ran away that night. She ponders that if she became a saint, would not she be able to protect her own body with her holy powers? Vicious cult blood leader says that points out it is because she is the standard for strength. Lord of Temptation said that if she was that strong, she would not have suffered. King of Waves and Healing said to ask Reen if she thinks if there is no one as strong as she is in the country. She told everyone to please be quiet. All constellations mute. He mentioned that if the new bride disappears before her wedding, saying it is dangerous that most people will be suspicious of her fiancé. The crown prince was concerned about such situation. Moreover, there were competitors. She questions what does he mean by competitor? He responds that a princess who enjoys the support of the emperor and nobles. Aiden von Ramdisch, in fact, she is the Grand Prince's only individual and political opponent currently. There are only 2 members of the royal family left excluding the emperor. He questions if she knew about it. She asks if there's some circumstances. She wonders that the situation where she returned 58 times in the Hunter series and then became possessed in the Romance series. She calls out to him and tells him this is a bit embarrassing if he asks her what happened. She tells him that in order to clear the murder charge, she has to find the saint and show that she is still alive, but it is a bit hard to bring back a kind who left because she said it was dangerous. She continues, mentioning that she thinks it is too much. She feels that her throat is dry now. He calls out to her as she tells him do not look at her like that because she's not a good person as he thinks. He tells her that he does not know how the rumor got so wrong and he will go right now and make corrections. She asks him to not do it and just stay still. She tells him that she is here to prove her innocence right, and now that she sees it, the problem seems to be the crown prince, so she guesses that she can solve that first. She covers his eyes with her hands as he mentions that he does not quite understand how she plans to solve it. He grabs her hand as he asks if she could teach him. She's lost of words as she ponders. She regrets this. She tells him that it is not difficult, just meet him and negotiate. He mentions but the prince will never listen to her. She asks him who said that. She tells him that she prefers physical communication over words as she pulls his nose. He questions if she is planning to use force and tells her that he thinks it is a good choice since the crown prince will be no match for her. She tells him it is not like that and asks what does he even think of her as? She tells him that if he thinks about it, it is something similar to a threat. But it is not a life threat. She tells him that if she wants to negotiate, she has to meet the crown prince first, and as he said, the crown prince will absolutely ignore her words or any meeting. However, if he invades the imperial family, things will become more troublesome. But she really needs to see the guide who accused her of being the culprit based on his suspicions without any clear physical evidence. She questions if he knows how to get a guide who will not leave the house. She shows his fist as she mentions that she is going to set the house on fire, telling him that, as a matter of fact, it also blows sparks at his feet. He calls out to her, questioning if it would be okay if he asks her one question. She responds all right as he asks why does she want to take him to the Duke residence. She ponders. It is of course because of the quest. She knows that relationship bothers her and wonders if there are any more relationships that can get better here. She tells him because she wants to become friends with him. He asks her if they are getting any closer. He tells her that she does not have to feel pressure to teach her, because he's learning just by being around her. She questions if he thinks that she will be burdened by him telling him that is just his illusion. She tells him that it is much faster to know how things going if he is by her side. He questions if that is the reason, and tells her it might be better if he does not accompany her. She asks him why is that the case. He mentions that she is the famous daughter of the only duke in the empire, and compared to him he is just an insignificant commoner. He states that just by taking him with her, she will definitely be someone to him. She seems confused as she questions, what does this mean? He tells her that the fact that she is taking him to the temple is sure to make him someone to her. She asks him what is he talking about. He mentions that the aristocrats' gaze upon a commoner-born sword master is not flattering. The Nazo family is a prestigious swordsmanship line edge, so it will add more weight. He continues that she may have rejected their advances, preferring not to mingle with them, and although she has remained in the knightly ranks, the fact remains that they seem to want to brand him with a stamp of commoner. She seems confused as she ponders it's not simply because of her prowess in the battle. She knows that they probably fear that if she gains even more influence, it would be dangerous for them, so they are trying to undermine her and exploit her weaknesses. She ponders. The people are the same wherever one go. Even from her perspective, she is familiar with this kind of thing as many people feared and revered her from her power, but at the same time they hoped for her downfall. At times they wanted to exploit her with sweet words and gestures, and they even desired to betray her to seize her fame in this world. She's aware that it is not about her, but about the role she plays. She wonders that this one seems particularly passionate. She wonders if the priest has not seen her being avoided before. She thought that associating with someone like her, who is often called a willingness, would tarnish her reputation. But his reputation was so impressive that she made that concern seem laughable. Before departing, he tells her that he is done with the preparation as she tells him he did a good job and asks him to move on. The reputation was increased. She ponders that there is a limit to overdoing it and knows that it is ironic that someone who is doing so well, unlike the villainess, feels stifled. She wonders how could they think that they could outshine her. She's aware that usually it is the opposite. She calls out to him and questions that they say he is called the light of the empire. He tells her yes, it is true, even though he finds it embarrassing. She knows that she was thinking of just leaving it alone, but since it is getting serious and as a senior with a similar life, she desires to say a word of advice. She tells him that even her as a noble is a disgrace to Nazo, but he is the light of the empire as a commoner. She points at him and tells him even if he is tired and fed up, he should not avoid it and be confident. She tells him that he does not need to care about anyone's opinion as it is just making fools look important and tells him to hold his ground. If he keeps frowning then he will get wrinkles. She tells him that since no one will care about him from now on, he does not have time to worry about those who dislike him and whom he dislikes. She tells him that he should believe in his reputation and live boldly doing what they dislike. He should have confidence in himself like she did in the old days. He currently blushes as he ponders that he feels like the annoying lethargy has lessened. She also mentions that he is her guest now, so if he does not feel at ease and carefully then it will be awkward for her. Since they make a real housework enthusiast at home, they should not look suspicious. She's aware that, as expected, it was the right choice to take him as a mentor. His favorability has increased by 50. After boosting so much to him, just as she arrived, she ended up running into these guys. She does him, but since he decided to help her with her work for a while, they should not start a fight for no reason. Mentioning that she is telling the truth except for the priestly nonsense. He calls out to her and asks her if she even has a sense of being a lady. He tells her that not only does she come in on this terrible night, but she also brought a man into the house. She is aware that he was going to react like this. She questions if his ears are clogged. He begins to argue with her, mentioning that she's speaking in such a rude tone. She asks him to do as he pleases. She tells him to keep chirping loudly all day long and questions if he is perhaps a chick. He becomes annoyed as he curses at her. She tells him that if anyone hears, they might think that she is living as a lady and questions, does just wearing a clean dress solve anything? She looks at the maid as she points at them, telling them that they ignore what she says as if it is nothing, and then his brother cannot even handle one little sister without getting frustrated as she points at him. She mentions that he should not treat her like a lady, but treat her like a human being at least. Her brother tells her that she is his little sister, and no matter how much she tries to act tough, she's still a lady. He mentions that no matter how much that person may be a prince, investigator, and a sword master, a commoner still is the same. She grabs his hand as he tells her that she should now go to her room. She tells him that Sidon is the only sword master in this empire. Questioning why should they care about his status, and instead of worrying about that, they should focus on learning something new and improving themselves. She tells him that if they invited such a person as a guest, then they should come running to them on their own, as those fools have empty heads, every last one of them. They got in trouble even to their families. Representative troublemaker. Her brother tells her even if that is the case, thus she thinks that she is in a position to invite anyone right now. He tells her that even if she claimed innocence, how dare she bring some riffraff man into the house. She questions what is it to him telling him that she brought someone to prove her innocence, and even if he is not going to clear her name, then he should shut his trap and stay quiet. Anne's favorability has increased by 50. Carol's favorability has increased by 20. She wonders how about that as she knows this is something that they call a smooth talking bond from experience. The constellations talk about finding the new hatched chick adorable. She asks if it is all her brother has to say and should they go. Her brother shouts that they cannot stay here. Carol's favorability has increased by 20. She does seem that she is busy with the guest, so he should stop bothering her and read the newspaper tomorrow morning. And if he does come back after that, she will gladly participate in the tournament. He questioned whether she mean by the newspaper, telling that he understands nothing. Carol mentions that this looks like a disaster and states that it is the first time that he has seen her handle things so confidently. Anne asks him if he trusts what he is saying. Carol responds that even if she's crazy, if the mercenary king acknowledges her, does not that carry some credibility? He mentions that if her innocence is revealed, it would be good for their family too. Anne clenches his fist, knowing that kind of rumor is already circulating, and he is extremely uneasy, just waiting. He thinks if what she said is true, so if the only suspect disappears as well, then he wonders how can he find Lan. The next morning begins as the sunlight is dazzling. She wakes up as she wonders if the sunlight was always this warm. She is aware that the warmth that could not fall in the tower, where only monsters roamed. She thinks that place seems to be truly over now. She is aware that Sidon must have woken up soon. She thinks since the people in that mansion do not seem likely to provide any guests, she should go and find some herself. She is aware that she has given him proper mental training, but he still seems intimidated. And she's also aware that it has been a while since someone visited, and she did not even notice someone had come. Suddenly, she has a passive skill that is both convenient and inconvenient. It is called heightened senses. Heightened senses are the passive skills which maximizes all senses to the point where she can instinctively detect the surrounding situation. In the tower, whether it is no cane or whatever else, she had to leave as a gyro, always keeping her skills on with enemies rushing in from all directions. However, true to its name, the heightened senses scale meant she could not sleep deeply or enjoy meals properly. So she called this skill Beggar Maker. However, after coming to this world, she kept this skill turned off, as that is why she knew when Sidon was coming, as she received a faint warning. The reason she turned it off is simple. In this world, it seems that there is no one who can even touch the tip of her hair. Cane of Waves and Healing advises her not to let her guard down nevertheless. Lord of Temptation laughs, mentioning that even if she lets her guard down, it will not be just a sneeze. She turns off the chat as the maids barge in. Her name is Erin and the reputation is 12. Maid strength is 3. She ponders that her likability is off the charts, no matter when she sees it. She asks them what is going on as the maid tells her to come down. And it really bothers her how her likability is reflected in her attitude. She tells them, eats to speak, as the maids begins to grin. The question if she is really asking because she does not know. Also questioning how many people does she think would be looking for her in this mansion. Besides the young master who wants to school her, they question if there are any others. She wonders that this is something else, and wonders why are they so interested in this. She thinks of them as some ants. The maids tell her that it seems like she does not know her status. They tell her that she is not a lady, but she's a disgrace, mentioning that she cannot even handle a sword, and then he tells that she hopes she has a good personality and hopes that she also has a good reputation. Questioning, all she knows how to do is pose beautifully, right? She's aware that it is very normal to blame others, but this does not happen once or twice. She tells them that they only believe the numbers and the truth does not matter for them. She tells them that she has been thinking what should she do with them and question if she should buy them out with money or give them a good deal. She questions that it seems like power is the most important thing here, right? The maid asks her what can she even do, telling her that it is the young master who has the power, not the young lady. She questions does that mean that she is unable to before she stands up and glares at the maid, telling her that the maid does not know her yet. The maid suddenly becomes terrified and falls down to the ground. She begins to ask for help, realizing that she is unable to breathe. Reem blows her breath towards the maid, activating the skill, which puts the target into a sleep state. The maid passes out as the other maid becomes shocked. She tells them that she did not die but is sleeping. One maid begins to beg and asks to spare her. Reen tells the maid that she is boring. She ponders that yesterday she talked to Sidon lightly. In fact, she said that because, like him, she went through many times of being ignored, and when she was weak, they ignored her more than once, and when she regained her strength, she was thrown to her death. Even when she was weak and strong, there was no comfort for her. She asked me why are they so foolish, mentioning that they are so weak, so why do they bully the weak? She ponders her. After all, she was the one who used force. The constellation talks, mentioning that he supports and says that she does not have to worry about anything. She responds, status oak, as it is just a rest period. She tells them that thanks to all of them, she did not have time to get frustrated. She asks the maid where is she going as the maid trembles, telling her that she should come to the restaurant immediately. And can get ready before coming. Reen tells the maid that she will go now and the maid can take care of the maids who are asleep. She's aware that now if this news gets out, her maids will not bother her anymore. She opens the door and she mentions that she is more generous than she was in her previous life. As she finds Sidon standing outside, he mentions that he felt a bloody mood, so he went out and came here. She questions, did he really feel it? He does not seem very well as he questions if she is all right. She flinches as she questions why cannot she be oak, and if he is going to blame on her too. She tells him this is too much even for the common people. He asks her why would he do that. She does him with everyone she might hear say that it was her fault. He calls her his dear lady and tells her even now, has he treated her this way before? She tells him right and mentions it is okay. She tells him that Anne asked her to meet him, so they should go and meet him. Meanwhile, he asks Rein to explain to her as he hits the sword on a newspaper. The newspaper is about the saint escaping at dawn. She's eating as she tells him that he is loud and asks him what is he on earth, asking her to explain again. He questions what does she mean by this article. She asked him what is there to explain. Cannot he read? And asks if he wants her to read it for him. Satan asks him to calm down. She also tells the Duke do not make a fuss. The Duke questions how dare he speak rumors against His Majesty the Crown Prince, and asks if they have ever thought about how much trouble their family would face if an article like this was published. He questions what is the position of her father and who is still in the imperial palace. Rein teases him as she grabs some meat, mentioning that he seems to be sensitive because his stomach is empty. She tells him that he can take a bite, but he refuses. She tells him that she will prove her innocence and questions. Did not he see the priest's testimony? The name was a joke, but she was not lying. The Duke questions if this testimony is truthful. Sidon responds that he is not sure as he questions is not there a good reason why His Highness the Crown Prince wants to bury these rumors. The Duke finds it weird and asks if he did not investigate the case in the name of His Majesty, as when he listens he is sure that he has turned his back on this case. Sidon responds that he is not loyal to His Highness the Grand Prince as is Polly conducting the investigation because it is his order as an imperial knight to uncover the truth, so he's just doing his job. The Duke questions so his leaking case evidence to his younger sister who was accused and asks if this is his investigation. Sidon responds, it is weird, and asks if the Duke is uncomfortable with him because he is a commoner helping his sister, or if he is comfortable with her sister charges being cleared. She seems to be surprised, knowing that he is doing a good job. The Duke mentions that he did not know that he was a friend of his younger sister, also stating that it is normal not to know because there is no such thing. He looks at Rein and tells her that he will do it now. She ponders that she heard that he feels embarrassed when he speaks. She points at her brother and tells him that it is his turn now. The Duke questions his turn. She mentions yes and asks him to apologize, questioning if he has forgotten that he was rude to her guests yesterday. The Duke apologizes to him, telling him what happened yesterday was his fault. Sidon does the deal that he does not need to apologize because there is someone else he should apologize to. Rein asks him to apologize to her too, as the Duke questions why. She tells him that he was being rude to her too yesterday, and he was screamed like a gorilla. He tells her that she is also rude as because of her, their family is classified as the family that killed the saint, but even without witnesses being called, this is unfair, and questions if he is that cowardly. He becomes angry as he tells her that the reason she is implicated as a suspect is because of her habitual behavior. He tells her that there is still a lack of actual evidence for the veracity of the article, and if she brings him more concrete evidence, then he will apologize to her then. She seems to be really angry. The evil blood sect master mentions that it will turn this bastard into rubble. The master of waves and healing will quietly prepare boiling water. The master of destruction prepares a magic circle to summon the demon lord. Of course she is very upset as she wonders when will this Dan's situation end. He tells him that he's done talking and he has eaten all the food right as it is time to get ready for the guests. She is aware that someone will be here soon. The king of waves and healing has informed her that the guest had set foot in this mansion. The Duke asks her if she invited someone again. She tells him this time it is a guest who came on their own feet, and in other words, it is an intruder. His Duke asks her what did she even mean by that before the door bursts open. The butler runs inside, telling the Duke that he has got some urgent news. He whispers into his Duke ears as his Duke stands up, suddenly questioning what she has done. Sidon questions if there were other guests beside him. She tells him that somehow he knows well. In Marcus, which is in the garden passage, the vicious blood priest is grumbling about why there are so many handsome guys in this world. The lot of seduction opens the back of special popcorn fried in hellfire at the appearance of Sidon's rival. She wonders why is he his rival, realizing that she got the words wrong. She knows that they finally meet. The man greets her as he is true Rein's beloved, the crown prince of the Ramdish Empire, Ishur Vor Ramdish. She greets him as she tells him it is an honor to meet him. She has a feeling about him right from the start. His strength is 890, and his ability is 910. His endurance is 9/10, and his luck is 886, and wisdom is 810. She has a good feeling that the system is going to make them terribly entangled. His favorability rating has dropped by 10 as she wonders what the heck his favorability rating drops. When she just greeted him, she finds it ridiculous. She pondered if he is not going to accept her handshake, then he should just kick her out, as he should not be treating people like this. The Duke questions what brought His Majesty here, as he did not even contact him. She is glad that Aunt came right on time. Ishur mentions that it is strange. Suddenly he grabs Reen's chin as he mentions that she does not even try to hide the fact that she has changed and questions who is she. Raiden is shocked as she pushes his hand aside. She tells him to not touch her body without her permission. He asks her to not provoke him and just tell him what she wants, as she must have something to say. She is aware that he is the strongest in Empire, and realizes that still he is no match for her. Ishur looks at his hand before he clenches his fist. He mentions, it does not matter now, as he is sure that she is the culprit. She is aware that he is acting up and knows this is probably too much for an ordinary person to bear, and she does not know what to do. She tells her it is not an exaggeration, it is basic right, and tells him it is about believing in and protecting his family, even if it is just once. Aunt stands in front of her, and he tells His Majesty that he does not think this kind of attitude is appropriate for a person who has never even learned swordsmanship. She notices that he is shaking as she realizes he is still helping her. She finds it so bad that she is also trembling. She places her hand on her brother's shoulder as His Majesty takes out his sword, questioning if they have not ever learned to use a sword, and if he is telling him that someone like that is standing perfectly fine on two legs. He states that one lion disappeared. It could not confirm that the princess was the real culprit because of the report that there was no trace of her. He mentions if she is this skilled, then everything makes sense, and asks where is Lion. She responds it is none of her business, though. His Majesty questions if she's asking him to believe that. She tells him that, on the contrary, she has a question for him and questions what did he do to the saintess. He asks her, how dare she question him? He decides to take out his sword as she laughs, questioning, did the greatest sword master in the world get scared of a civilian? He launches at her before Saidin gets in the way. His Majesty tells him to get out of the way, but he responds that cannot be because he does not think that she is the criminal. The Majestic questions if he is siding with the author now, as he responds he is not siding with anyone. The Majesty states that no one in this empire hates Lian as much as he does. He shouts it in such a situation Lian disappeared and Reen had the power to execute her. He questions if he wants to say someone here. Saidin asks His Majesty to calm down and talk it out, mentioning that if a person of this level of skill kills someone rationally, does he not know there are more efficient ways? He tells His Majesty that he really wants to find the scientist, that now is the time for the two of them to cooperate. Reen is aware that if Saidin had not stopped her, then she would have hit him too. She ponders. Of course she was going to adjust her strengths. The Majesty tells her that she is suspicious to him and questions how is she going to explain that. She responds he was the one who hired the witness first. Because of that, he framed her as the culprit and she even went to jail. She tells him that she hopes he understands that she did it out of desperation. She tells him that this conversation seems like it is going to be long, so they should move over there as they are going inside. His Duke grabs onto her and tells her that she's a skilled person, so what does this mean? She tells Saidin to go as she ponders that Aunt stopped His Majesty. His favorability rating is still low and she knows that. He will not believe her with a negative favorability rating. She tells him it is none of his business as he mentions he has the right to know if it concerns his brother. She tells him that she knows it very well and asks them when did they become too close. She thinks that he is not qualified. She uses his activation skill and puts him to deep sleep.